You're welcome back. Let's settle for the details now. We'll start from Parliament because there's a breaking story we have for you this afternoon. Deputy Majority Leader Alexander Afenyo-Markin has blocked the third reading of the anti-gay bill, which would have seen the passage of the controversial bill. Now, Alexander Afenyo-Markin is clear. He is not against the principles of the bill and in fact supports it. However, he is opposed to jailing people who are accused of engaging or promoting the LGBTIQ+++. Now, listen to the Deputy Majority Leader making a spirited argument on the floor as we bring in Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Kwaku Asante with details on this very breaking story. Kwaku, you're welcome to the pulse.
Elton.
So let's establish this motion for a second consideration of the bill. Has it been admitted and approved by the House?
Yes, it has been moved, it has been voted on, and that motion has won. The Speaker of Parliament came in to sit in the chair and said that there was some important business and thought the House had to deal with. Apparently, that was the anti-gay bill. In his view, Parliament has to pass that. And you know, last week, the House concluded the consideration stage of the anti-gay bill. So all that has been left is for the third reading, and right after the third reading, the Speaker of Parliament will hit the gavel, and the bill would have been passed. And so the Speaker of Parliament signaled the intention that the third reading of this bill should advance. But then Alexander Afenyo-Markin was on his feet, insisting that he had some specific motions that he wanted to move about this. His motion was that the House should take a second consideration. And so by virtue of the new standing orders and order 171, he moved a motion for the second consideration of this. So had it not been for this motion, the House would have approved the anti-LGBTQ+ bill today. But Alexander Afenyo-Markin signaled his intention to move the motion. In fact, he had prepared a long statement on this, and he had actually read them on the floor. And so he's proposing up to about 15 changes to the bill. And the crux of Alexander Afenyo-Markin's opposition to the bill is not in terms of the principle. He says he's not against the bill that will seek to criminalize LGBTQ activities or the promotion of LGBTQ activities. However, he does not approve of imposing custodial sentences in the bill. The bill imposes, in some aspects, up to 5 years for persons who engage in LGBTQ activities, the promotion and other things. For persons who engage in it, they have up to between 3 and 6 months to go in jail for, of course, with fines and other things. But Alexander Afenyo-Markin says, instead, you should be imposing fines and other community sentences. You should not put anybody in jail because they engage in LGBTQ activities, because they promoted LGBTQ. So basically, his argument. That was the basis for his motion that the House should proceed to do a second consideration of this bill.
So basically, he's against custodial sentence, as you know, prescribed in the earlier bill. The reason why he's moved for a second consideration of the bill so that custodial sentence can be taken out, and in its place, fines rather imposed on people who may be caught when this bill becomes law. Right, so we'll bring on Kwaku Asante, who's a parliamentary correspondent, the latest on this proper human sexuality bill that is before Parliament. Now, it's gone through consideration. All that's left of it was for the bill to be taken to third reading. After third reading, then it is passed, and then, you know, subject to the president's ascension of the bill, then it can become a law. Now, we have been told this afternoon that Alexander Afenyo-Markin, who is a deputy majority leader, so I was asking, Afenyo-Markin's proposal, motion that is requesting second consideration of the bill, he is seeking to remove custodial sentence and in its place, you know, impose fines on people who may be caught practicing this if it becomes a law.
Yes, that was the basis of his argument on the floor today, signaling his intention that as a lawyer and someone who has practiced for so long, his days as a law student, clearly if you put people in jail for LGBTQ activities, they will become worse off because the Ghana's jails, the prisons, are not in proper conditions. They are the avenues for sodomy and other such things that you are seeking to prescribe by putting them in jail. And so, in his view, instead of putting people in jail for LGBT activities, impose on them hefty fines if you may. Ask them to do community centers. Already, Ghanaian prisons are filled to the brim. There's no space for people to be there. Prison rooms that should take up to 10, 15, 20 people. It's taking hundreds of people. So you do not have a proper prison system that will reform these persons, because the purpose for this bill, Sam George and co have argued, is to reform. And so if you are going to put somebody in jail for 10, 20 years and they will not be reformed, and the prison will actually leave them worse off, then you are not going to achieve anything that you are seeking to achieve. And that is why he was seeking to put this proposal to the floor of the House. But the House should do a second consideration, and then there are about 15 clauses of this bill that is currently before the House that imposes custodial sentence. And then take that custodial sentence out, and then you will be able to, as it were, impose fines, community sentencing, treatment. Because mind you, some of the sponsors of the bill have said that LGBTQ activities is even a mental disease. And so why are you going to put somebody that you admit has mental problems in jail? It will not leave them any better off. And so that was the crux of the argument Afenyo-Markin put. And surprisingly, the sponsors of the bill were not opposed to this. In fact, Sam George, Roxanne Nelson, who are co-sponsors of this bill, were actually on their feet, somewhat endorsing this view that had been taken by Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Of course, they do not agree that they should take the custodial sentence from the bill, but they did not block the argument that there should be a second consideration. And so that happened. There was a vote, and the House unanimously adopted the motion of Alexander Afenyo-Markin for a second consideration of this bill, which has actually started. It was the view of the Speaker that the House should conclude the second consideration today and vote on third reading and pass it today. But clearly, there was not enough time to be able to do all that. So they had to do part of it and then adjourn to continue tomorrow. So
the proposed clause for consideration that Afenyo-Markin is seeking to move only centers around non-custodial sentence.
Yes, in fact, 15 of them, he has a lengthy memorandum that he has presented to the House. And whenever there is a place in the bill that imposes custodial sentence, that jails someone for LGBTQ activities, that puts somebody in jail for engaging in behavior that promotes LGBT activities and all that, he says that that must be replaced with non-custodial sentence. And for the reasons he canvasses that it does not make any sense that you put people in jail, it will leave them worse off, it will not change them, it will not improve society in any way. And so that is what he's seeking to do. If you sense the view of the House, the mood of the House, and today there were more minority MPs than there were majority MPs, the House is not inclined to go by the views that have been expressed by Afenyo-Markin, because they actually put on the floor one of the motions that were moved by Afenyo-Markin, in fact, clause 4, which was seeking to remove custodial sentence, and he lost that. So the House actually reinstated custodial sentence in clause 4 of the bill. They are going to continue clause by clause till they conclude, and then they can put a vote. But Afenyo-Markin wants to go on the record. He wants posterity to come and look at the debate as has happened on the floor of the House. I know that somebody railed against that.
Okay, let me hold you there. We'll come back to deal with other various matters this afternoon. But let me bring in one of the sponsors, indeed, the main sponsor of this bill, Honorable Sam George, Member of Parliament for Nigo Prampram here in the Greater Accra region. Honorable Sam George, you're welcome to the pulse here on Joy News.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to our viewers.
Great, it's a pleasure. And I guess today you were hoping to celebrate the passage of this bill. Now you have to wait for some days because of this new development. What is your reaction to the position taken by Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin?
Well, I think it's within his democratic rights and it's part of the parliamentary procedure. He's introduced an amendment, he introduced a motion to arrest the third reading for us to do the second consideration. We were not opposed to it. In fact, we as sponsors had intended to arrest the third reading and do some amendments, because when the draft person brought the bill, we realized that there were some omissions, and so we just needed to quickly tidy those up. Those are, for us, there are about 10 of them, but they are it's just grammar, basically, that we were tweaking. And so no major thing, something we thought we would complete in 30 minutes. Then the Honorable Alexander Afenyo-Markin comes in with his motion. We are not opposed to his motion. In fact, we get one of our members, the sponsors, to second the motion because we're also going to do a second consideration. Then we have what you can technically call filibustering happen, where he basically just repeats himself and runs around just to wind down the clock. Spent almost an hour on his feet, repeating all the arguments he had made last week Wednesday and last week Thursday. And after he was done with that, he called in the chairman, Honorable Ayimedu, who unfortunately behaved in a way that was not the most honorable manner, lying before the House and misleading Mr. Speaker on what the House had said, which was not true. He literally peddled untruths, and unfortunately, he didn't do the honorable thing. He didn't think it was honorable enough to accept when the Speaker basically called him out for misleading the House and being untruthful by reading the record from the Hansa and showing that what the chairman of the committee, Kwame Ayimedu, had said to the Speaker was the decision of the House was actually not the decision of the House. He failed to withdraw and apologize. But I mean, records would show that he had been untruthful about what had pertained in the House. We will continue this whenever the Speaker comes, and I think that it's clear. Afenyo-Markin will be advised to withdraw his amendment because he would lose every single one of his amendments. We took the first one today, it failed. If you listen to the voice vote, even though we had almost 20 members of the majority side in the House, when I counted, there were 19 of them. He was the only one who voted for his amendment. And when you looked at the counter that I put up, when the Speaker put the question, the whole House supported that motion. And I mean, whatever, it's the same argument is repeated 12 times or about 13 times. And so it's a moot position. It's not going to fly. It's not going to go anywhere. If it's tomorrow, if it is next week, the Speaker brings it, we will defeat all his amendments and then quickly pass through our amendments and go ahead with the bill. So
therefore, you live to fight another day. But tell me, I mean, his position is that we should have non-custodial centers. You are against it clearly.
It makes absolutely no sense to say that because you want to reform people, we shouldn't imprison them. Then why are we imprisoning anybody for any of the crimes in Ghana? Why is anybody being sentenced to court? To jail. Those who want the reform of every other person who falls foul of the law. Laws are passed not just for reform, but laws are passed to act as a precaution so that people know that if I do this, there is a penalty. The penalty is what makes people say, I will not do it. Listen, why? Are you telling me that you've never felt broke or you've never been broke? I have been broke before. There are days I wake up and I don't have a cedi. And it would have been easy for me to go into somebody's house and go into a bank and demand money of the bank with a gun. But I look at what the penalty is for doing that. The penalty means that I'm going to move away from my lovely children and my wife and be locked up in jail if I'm lucky. If I'm not lucky, I'll be shot and killed by the police. That in itself is preventive enough. It makes me walk with my hunger and look for money legitimately. Why? Because I know what the punishment is. It's steep, it is punitive. But if you pass a law and you are slapping people on the wrist, why would anybody take that law seriously? And I mean, the whole argument Afenyo is making, it beggars, you try to understand the logic. It really doesn't hold water. You know, when someone is a financier of groups and persons who want to do this, you say we should not fine them, or we should give them a very steep fine. I mean, there really is no wisdom behind it. And in fact, when you look at the community sentencing he's asking us to introduce, there is no legal framework for it in Ghana. There is absolutely no legal framework. He says that he's aware government is working on a draft. How do we pass a law today with the hope that tomorrow somebody will come and, I mean, that would be very irresponsible on our part as members of parliament. And it's an invitation to irresponsibility that we would not accept. That invitation we will not honor. So
you therefore don't see this as another, attempt to put some impediments in the way of the passage of the bill, but rather somebody exercising his democratic right.
Well, you can't stop a member of parliament from exercising his democratic right. I mean, this is a democratic process, and that's why we even seconded it. And I'm saying that once we are done with the consideration, the second consideration, and the rules of the House, there is nothing else we can do. You can't stop. Once we are done with the second, so whatever amendments he has, he's filed them. We will would address all the amendments. In fact, this afternoon I stood up and said to the Speaker that, look, once we defeated the first one, can we just stick with that? It's consequential on all the others so that we don't even have to waste time. And the Speaker said no. He would have to move everyone, and when he moves everyone, I will put the question. And so every time when he moves the motion, we will just stand up and say we are opposed. We don't need to repeat our argument. And the Speaker will put the question, and we will vote him down. And we will go through. And then we will move our own amendments as advertised on the other paper and carry them, and then we'll complete the bill. Because the majority of the members of Parliament are opposed to the position of Afenyo-Markin and Kwame Ayimedi, the chairman of the committee.
Honorable Samanja, before I let you go, so you don't expect this to travel long. You expect this to be dealt with as early as possible, right?
I'm on record to stated that I believe that this will be an Easter gift to the people of Ghana. And so before the House breaks on the 22nd of March, I believe that this will be this bill will have been passed into law by the House. All right.
Thank you so much, and have a lovely weekend.
Thank you.
The Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram sponsor, one of the sponsors of the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-Gay Bill, is the person we just spoke to. Now, earlier you heard our parliamentary correspondent. I don't know whether we still have Kwaku Asante on Zoom. All right, so Kwaku is gone off. We'll come back to deal with another issue. But let me just refresh your memory on the reason why this second consideration has become very important. And the reason is that Parliament approved an amendment to the Human Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, also known as the Anti-Gay Bill. This includes imposing a 6-month custodial sentence or less on individuals who aid, facilitate, encourage, or promote LGBTQ activities. The amendment was proposed by co-sponsor of Bill Sam George, who believes that strict punishment is necessary to ensure compliance with the law once passed. Now, this afternoon, just like we brought to you, the Deputy Majority Leader filed or moved a motion on the floor of Parliament, motion which was debated, votes passed on it, and then approved by the House. And the motion sought to get Parliament to undertake second consideration of the bill. Now, this second consideration, that motion which was approved on the floor, means that the bill will have to go through another consideration. Now, his proposal is that instead of putting people in prison for aiding, facilitating, encouraging, promotion of LGBTQ activities, such people must be made to pay fine, some financial obligation imposed on such people, instead of putting them in prison. This is the crux of Alexander Afenyo-Markin's latest, opposition to the Sexual Rights and Family Values Bill, which is currently before the House. Now, on Monday, the House will have to now consider, take the bill to second consideration, and if he's successful in his proposal, then the custodial sentence could be replaced with fines. If it's not successful, then clearly we'll have to wait and see the bill go through third reading, which will eventually see its passage. So that's the breaking news we brought to this afternoon. But let me come back to the studio here, and you are watching the Pulse here on Joy News. My name is Elton Robert.